variants of Freeze Mage have been cropping up, especially when you can ban Hunter. You know, it makes the deck actually relevant as opposed to completely dismissible, like in ladder. You don't see any Freeze Mage or barely on ladder unless you're at very high levels where maybe you don't see too many Hunters. Um, but at this point, really nice hand for the Druid here. I like that. He especially picked up the two top decks, I'd say, Wrath and Harvest Golem. Really improve his early game. It's especially important if the opponent starts with a Mana Worm. Although in this case, Mad Scientist comes out.
Yeah, the only issue I think with Kisstafer's hand right now is he doesn't have Wild Growth. As a ramp deck,
Hmm.
that's so important to gain that early tempo advantage over your opponent in terms of being able to throw the big bombs out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's going to be throwing out his big taunts. At the same time, Gar is going to be throwing out his Ragnaros, probably his Giants or Twilight Drakes. So
Yeah.
Kisstafer is going to be a hard time keeping up with
Ooh.
that without that advantage of mana.
Yeah, that's a really painful draw as well. Kisstafer doesn't know it, but like Gaara has the Frost Nova Doomsayer. Now, of course, if he finds a Keeper of the Grove, that's going to be an easy silence target, I believe, as soon as he pumps out his minions. But for the time being, Gaara could potentially just be able to lock down the board, assuming no silence is found and too much overextension is done. All right, Ice Block goes down from Gaara, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Now, I would actually have to partially disagree about silencing the Doomsayer. If
You
Kisstafer
would?
figures out that Gaara is running Twilight Drakes, his silence is the
Oh,
only answer to those as a druid
yeah.
deck like this.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Assuming he can figure it out. But I mean, what do you expect here? I've seen a lot of mages right now that run some kind of mid-range-ish approach where it's not because they run secrets and mad scientists that they are freeze mage. You'll see a lot of war elementals, sludge belchers, kind of tempo with
Mhm.
Kiritor mage right now. So this is not already like a guaranteed giveaway.
I really like the play that Kisper is making right now. I think he
Hmm.
realizes that Wrath won't be the most useful in this kind of or in this kind of deck that he's facing.
Yep.
So he'd rather cycle it possibly into either a Wild Growth, something that'll provide a little bit more use in the like middle stages of the game.
Yeah, and now he sees that Gaara has two secrets, neither of which triggered on the Harvest Golem's attack, so no ice barrier. So he probably assumes some kind of duplicate, counter spell. What is it, Spellbender or Ice Block?
Mhm.
Um, oh, down goes the
Now,
Doomsayer.
as soon as the Doomsayer comes down, Christopher's realizing that
Yeah,
one, he's playing some version of Freeze Mage. Two, just based on the meta that you see two secrets and it's not Ice Barrier, it's going to be duplicate and it's
yeah, very
going to be
likely.
some form of giant late game mage that we've
Yeah,
seen recently in tournaments.
yeah, makes a lot of sense. And the Big Game Hunter is actually going to be one of his favorite cards right now. Oh, is he going to play the Drake onto this Doomsayer's lethal? That'd be interesting to see. I mean, just a sacrifice for the card draw?
It'd be a decent cycle, but I
I don't
really can't say that I really can't think that it would be worth it. Um,
know. No, I don't see the value in it. I mean, he could just hold on for one more turn, although he might be afraid of Sludge Belchers falling down and him having absolutely no response. I mean, he could still kill it with Wrath on the following
Now,
turn with
one
the
big
token.
option that I could see Kisser going for at this moment is to use Savage Roar and his hero power and kill off the Doomsayer. Because if he knows it's duplicate, double Doomsayer won't do all that much for Gara
Yeah,
in this
that's
kind of
actually true.
situation.
Yeah.
But he
Now
decides
I'm
to save it.
yeah, really curious now if Gaara is going to surrender some of his mana this turn to free to kill a token. Oh yeah, he probably will. Or Sylvanas out.
An
That's
early Sylvanas.
this is very
Hmm.
oh duplicate. There we go. That explains it. Um, But still, he can just sit on it. Can Kisstafer really afford to sit without killing the Sylvanas and not
But
giving his opponent two of them?
I'm not sure he has a choice, but at the same time, he does not have a silence
Oh,
in his hand. So
this
killing this
hurts.
Sylvanas will be absolutely brutal.
Oh, I would not like to be in Kisstafer's position right now. Now, he does drop a Shade of Nax Traumas, which I find interesting. Now, I'm not sure we're looking at ramp anymore. Maybe just a poor hand for a more token druid approach. Am I mistaken here? This
I
looks a
guess
lot
with a
more
double
like
Savage Roar, I think you might actually be correct. The only thing that really confused me was the Azure Drake at the beginning.
yeah, same. I assumed it was ramp because I haven't seen too much of it elsewhere.
Hmm
Yeah, that is definitely interesting. Now, this is a tricky position because if he plays the Azure Drake, it's guaranteed to die, and Gaara can ping off his own Sylvanas to steal the Shade, assuming he does want to. And if he plays the Ancient of Lore, the same is true. The Shade goes to Gaara again. So does he just have to
Exactly.
sacrifice it?
This is really the power of the type of deck
Ah,
Gar is running is right now. It's only minions that if they get duplicated,
yeah, it's
they're
painful.
scary.
You're in for a bad day. Yeah.
Sylvanas, Ragnaros, even
Oh,
Sludge Belcher, Water Elemental. You never want to see more of those. But then you get to the stuff like Twilight Drakes, where when you kill it, all of a sudden you get two of them in your hands. So that's just one more health from the next one that comes down.
exactly. And you're gonna
Um,
have two of them to deal with.
Molten Giant, you kill it, it just comes back down, usually for
Hmm.
zero mana.
Yeah.
So I was actually very impressed the first time I saw a deck like this by Hyped.
Yeah, I was invited, I remember, on Shaman's show, and I had a very similar deck with Zero Drakes and whatnot. It was really, really cool, but it wasn't fine-tuned the way that Hypes was when he added in, I think, the Sludge Belchers. Well, they weren't out at the time, but they just make a hell of a lot of sense in that deck. Mountain Giants being cut out as well make a lot of sense. The old Freeze Mage with Giants used to run them.
Mhm.
Ooh, third Sylvanas. No time for games. Uh, and out comes
Now,
the
this is
Ancient of
actually a very
Lore.
smart move, I think, by Kisstafer. The
Mm-hmm.
Ancient of Lore trade well with the Sylvanas, not wasting anything. Meanwhile, give him the card draw that he needs.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I can't imagine not sacrificing the shade the other turn. It would have been too painful to just let everything die, and
Mhm.
then lose the shade to Gara.
Now, we do see that Kisstafer is actually running a Ramp Druid.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Yeah.
Gara, I think, still is confused of what kind of deck he's seeing. The Azure Drake, like you said, could go in some kind of token form deck
Yeah. He
or a
hasn't seen
ramp
it though.
deck. So
Yeah. All right. So, well, Gara is on 21 health, so that's not impossible to burst down. Ooh, Spectral Knights and
wow.
Chillwind Yeti.
Yeti and Spec Knight. This is a
Both?
deck we have not seen for quite a while. And I'd
Yeah.
actually have to say the reason I think we're seeing it is because they both ban Hunter, which I think was a pretty intelligent move by Christopher, being willing to run a deck like this.
Yeah. Although Spectral Knight does have some value. Oh, the hit on the minion here, that is devastating. And Kisstafer picks up his own Ragnaros. Now, I could see Force of Nature being used here just to remove Ragnaros.
I think
Uh,
Force of Nature Savage Roar might be his only option at this
BGH
point if he
otherwise.
expects to come back.
But BGH also makes a lot of sense. I mean, if he doesn't want to keep it for Giants, um, but it's really up to him at this
Now
point.
he could swipe the Sylvanas, take it to the face, and then BGH.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the only I mean, it's the only play that wipes the board. The problem is he doesn't gain tempo off it. It's still not his turn to do anything,
Mhm.
which is sometimes a bit problematic. Like it's nice wiping a board, but if you can't really come back into it.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
Gar is in such a dominant position at this point. Christopher
Hmm.
is really going to have to pull something
Yeah. But
very,
it
very lucky in order to come back. Or Gara has to be drawn dead for a few turns.
which is possible, but we're looking at Arcane Intellect, so the odds of that happening. I mean, even if Kisstafer puts out a massive threat, there's a Polymorph, there's the Frost Nova Doomsayer, which can definitely threaten Kisstafer's board position if he manages to establish it. And Gara picks up a Twilight Drake. Will he play it? He probably will play it after Arcane Intellect, and he
Yes.
does. It makes a lot of sense.
He's looking for,
Um,
and he's going to probably Twilight Drake and Frostbolt off the 4-2.
yep, makes a lot of sense, and so he does.
Now, how I
Hello,
see this
Drake.
game coming down is Christopher, I think, will have to pop the ice block with a Ragnaros with an empty board. He has to find a way to take control of that. The reason is that way, if Gara does end up Alex Drawsing next, Christopher has that Ragnaros to
Yeah,
kind of answer that. If he throws down some Molten Giants with it,
it's
again, you
also
have
an
the
answer to
Ragnaros
that.
already on the field.
Understood. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The thing is, the mage hasn't used any fireball. He hasn't used any polymorph yet, and you
Mhm.
probably assume him like he has at least one of them in the deck somewhere. But he's thinking about it at least. He's at least thinking about playing Rag and maybe attacking the Drake to lower it down to 8 health, and he does. I'm wondering if he'll hit. If he does, I wonder how happy he is. I'm pretty sure he wants to hit the face at this
He,
point.
no, I think he needed that to hit the Drake because if it hit the face, he would be worried about double Molten Giant
Double
coming down,
fireball.
in which
Uh,
case Gara would kind of just run train on Christopher. But at this point, Gara actually does have the polymorph for an easy
yeah,
clear.
yeah. It's just I don't know. I'm a little bummed out of this matchup. It's a little weird the way how slow it is and how swingy it can be either way.
Mhm.
It's very easy
It's very awkward,
Yeah, it really is awkward. That'd be the perfect word I'd have to say. I mean, chill
especially
when Yeti
because
and
we've been
Spectral Knight.
because we've been in such a heavy hunter-based meta recently that we haven't seen matchups like this in tournaments. It's only when we see the banned format that we actually get the opportunity to see games like this. Another reason I'm personally excited for that. I still think the buzzer change was a little much, but I'm still excited for games like this.
Yeah, but I mean, you haven't seen much post Naxxramas Mage,
Hmm.
which is probably the reason why this is so awesome to actually see. Now, Azure Drake comes down. I wonder what he's fetching for. Does he innervate out the Ancient of Lore here instead of the Spectral Knight?
I think at this point he really wants to fight for that board presence in
He
order to
needs
get a
to.
final kill.
He really
After seeing that
does.
innervate, I think he kind of regrets using that first Savage Roar
Oh, that's true. He could have
because
actually done it
he would
22
have had
damage.
lethal.
Yeah. Belchers as well, which are a huge line of threat. In that it's really hard to go through two Sludge Belchers plus the Ice Block. That's a total of 30 damage plus the little slime. So 34 damage you have to go through to even touch the Ice Block. That's a big deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. I can understand why he wants the board presence right now, but
If I had to guess, I would expect to see some either a Doomsayer play this turn or a ping on what he's doing and throwing down the Sludge Belcher just to kind of
I'm,
slow down Kisstafer's damage at this point.
yeah, I would assume exactly like he played Sludge Belcher. It makes a lot of sense. He can't really do anything about the Spectral Knight as far as spells go. So his only way to really kill this will have to be through the Doomsayer Nova.
Hmm.
Which well it happens that Christopher just drew a Keeper of the Grove, keeping the Grove
That
safe.
keeper is going to be
Yeah,
crucial for this matchup. Please
instrumental
don't use
indeed.
it on that Belcher. It seems so tempting in a situation like this.
Hmm. Yeah, I could see why he'd want to do that since he wants to go through, but we know what Gaara has in hand, and that would be a big mistake. Unless, of course, he draws a second one through the Ancient of Lore, in which
I
case
think
that would make a lot of sense.
if I was in his position, I would consider just using the Ancient Allure at this point, unless he
Yeah,
really wants to get through this Belcher.
it looks like he does before the duplicate comes down. Maybe that's it. I don't know exactly what his line of thinking is, but I could see value in this. Now he's almost, unless he kills a War Elemental, he's going to lose the he's going to kill the War Elemental. All right, so this board is clear from
Hmm.
Christopher's perspective.
The only thing I'm worried about in this kind of situation would be if Gara had a Flame Strike ping, just wipe the entire board,
Yeah, but
and then
that's
we're
a
back
risk
to
you have
square
to.
one.
You have to expose yourself to that risk. Otherwise, you'll never even be able to dent the health, let alone go through the ice block.
Hmm.
Another Twilight Drake for Gaara. That is huge. Oh, wow.
Now, my question is, do you think Gara is willing to take the risk of freezing and Doomsayering here? Or do you think he's better off Twilight Drake and Belcher?
I believe he could take a chance, but he hasn't seen a single keeper yet. So he probably has some idea that, Christopher's been holding on to at least one of them. And if he could bait a silence, maybe, assuming the Christopher would be willing to, he could maybe get a silence to be used on the Twilight Drake or the Sludge Belcher, assuming he throws both down, which would open up the way for the Doomsayer Nova play.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's good as well for Gaara that he hasn't drawn Molten Giants before he's lower on health. So he's been drawing, I wouldn't say it's not even dead. Like every card he's had is live so far. Oh, Doomsayer falls down.
And the Nova.
Wow. Well, rip and pepperoni, Doomsayer. Although,
So that gives away that,
Flame
oh, the
Strike.
double keeper. Yeah, that gives away that Gara does not have the Flame Strike. And with
Well, I
that
don't
second
know.
keeper,
Yeah.
he can
I like the
absolutely
ping.
silence that Doomsayer, I think. Except he has to be worried about Flame Strike.
Yeah, well, he
So
pinged the Yeti.
yeah,
It's
I would
almost a
consider
bluff. It's
wild
almost a
growthing like
bluff.
he is.
Yeah, let's see what he picks up with that excess mana. A swipe. Huh. That almost puts enough pressure for Force of Nature Savage Roar to go for the lethal. He's just a little bit away. Yep, he will silence the Doomsayer, apparently, wants to keep his board alive. Taking the risk of maybe running into a Flame Strike, but, Gara either telegraphed that he really, really had it by pinging the Yeti, or that he didn't have it at all, and now he's vulnerable to some huge Savage Roar push.
I think that's a risk worth taking. The fact that Gaara didn't show the Flame Strike the previous turn.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, the
Will
10
Gaara fish
mana
for it?
Arcane Intellect.
He's fishing.
Nat Piggle up in
And
here,
he
and he.
picks up the Flame Strike.
This is a glorious draw. I don't know if he runs one or two. I don't even know. If I knew, that'd be great. Oh, that is a really, really nice draw for Gaara. Coming back in this game now. He was
Mhm.
getting popped off his ice block at that point. Um,
I think you have to innervate the Eddy out here at this point. You got to
yeah.
go for that kill next turn.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of damage as well. He's got a lot of damage. Even if you include the swipe in the sequence that happens on the following turn. Sludge Belcher's gonna have to go down here. No chance he doesn't. And
Hmm.
he, and it doesn't.
Wow.
Okay, he wants to counterattack, knowing he's got a second ice block on the back of this.
Okay, so
Uh,
let's count this up. He has 9 damage on field. What's the best way to do the 10?
I mean, you could increase their damage to 13, so all you have to do is send 1/3 plus hero power, I believe. I mean, just even your hero alone, you should probably get there. With Swipe and Keeper of the Grove, you have enough reach on the following turn to get it done. Yep, that would be 17 with one tree, plus the two
Hmm.
minions on the board. And your hero power, you bring him down, you pop the
Would you
block,
want
and
to
then...
would you want to use the full combo here and try to wipe a bit of the board, or do you want to save maybe even the Savage Roar for later,
Oh,
maybe a better
I
position?
I guess if you're afraid of Alexstrasza, that would make sense not to pop at all right now.
Exactly. That's
I
kind of
could
what
see
I'm
that.
thinking right now.
Yeah, I could see Alexstrasza being a big worry for Kisstafer right now.
I think he needs to pop it at this point. He can't let that ice block sit. He needs to put the pressure on Gaara to either have the Alexstrasza, to have the other ice block.
Yeah, definitely. It has to happen in some way. Otherwise, then again, maybe he feels confident in not doing so. So he's just gonna wipe the board with swipe hero power, maybe.
It's an interesting play. I kind of want
Oh,
to see what his line
oh,
of thought is in these future turns. I guess
mm.
he's trying to hold off on that Flame Strike or on the Molten Giants as long as possible.
Yeah, that looks like it. But you know that he's gonna drop them down after you pop the block. So maybe, I mean, he's used the swipe already on this. Oh, the Archmage Antonidas from
Archmage.
Gaara.
Archmage Freeze. It's
I
a
have
deadly
not
combination
seen
right now.
this in ages. Oh wow. This is absolutely insane. So he can get good value out of his Frost Nova, and Kisstafer is going to be forced to use his Force of Nature here just to
Hmm.
kill. Or he could Loatheb, alternatively.
Lotheb wouldn't be awful.
Yeah, it wouldn't be awful at all. It buys you one turn, and unless he's got another board wipe, which he hasn't represented, then you might be able to get through with a Force of Nature.
I
Um,
actually think I might like to Lotheb Azure Drake this play.
yeah, just flood the
Set
board
up
a
the
bit more.
board to an extent that you can pop it without using your combo and wiping board,
Hmm.
allowing you to combo the following turn.
Yeah,
It
you're
does give him another.
basically... Go ahead,
The only
finish your
issue
thought.
with that is it is lethal next. Actually, no, that's actually a big mistake. The reason is if he Lothebs now and he does use Archmage and one Fireball to attack to the face,
You'd
that'll
get
be
the
11
next one,
damage,
yeah.
bringing him down to what is
He's
it,
got no
7?
taunts. True.
I'm sorry?
He can't stop the Archmage. That's right. He's just gonna take it to the face and then die to the fireball spam on the following
Exactly.
turn. That was a bad idea. Never mind. Yeah. Oh, and he's going to do it nonetheless. The wow. Have faith in he doesn't have the second ice block here. This is what we call a Yolotheb.
Even if he didn't have the second ice block, this would be game over. Because now Gara, all he has to do is use the Fireball, attack with Archmage to the face.
Wait one turn.
His ice block will pop, and then he'll just kill him next turn with his other Fireball and Frostbolt. There's
Mm,
absolutely nothing Kisstafer could have other than Healing Touch that could save him.
yeah, but maybe he's thinking that Gar probably already has two fireballs in hand, considering, mages usually run fireballs baseline. He hasn't shown a single one yet. So maybe Christopher is assuming that Gar has two fireballs in hand, including the one from the Archmage. So I don't know. Maybe he's just hoping for the best here. That Gar drew dead. If
Wait.
that's
I
not the
actually think
case,
I know what Kisstafer's doing. He's
go ahead.
trying to trick Gara into thinking that Kisstafer has a flare in his hand. It's the only explanation.
Nothing else makes sense, does it? Yeah. Maybe he just had the same bad idea we both did. Um, wow, two shades of Nax Ross and Ram Druid. That's interesting. I've seen some, zombie Chow ramp around. Shade of Nax ramp, a little less common. Hmm.
Now, actually really disagree with Gaara's choice there. He decided to go with the Frostbolt instead of the Fireball that turn.
Yeah. Well, maybe he knows he can't. Well, I mean, I guess if Kisstafer ran Healing Touch, right, he could come back or some kind of Bite Claw. But who runs that really? Like, it doesn't really
Yeah.
make any sense. Yeah, this
I don't know.
game
I feel
is
like using the
over for Kisstafer.
Fireball there would have just been a bit better than using Frostbolt and pinging.
I could see. I mean, I guess. Yeah, I don't really see the point in worrying about your ice block since you're guaranteed to get a second one anyway.
Mhm.
I think people are just getting too used to Flare now that you don't know how to play
Exactly. And
any other
again,
way.
if he used the Fireball instead of Frostbolt, he would have the ability. Let's say he top decked his actual Fireball, he would just have that much more damage in case the
Hmm.
Healing Touch did come up.
Yeah, and he's got what, 5 cards left in the deck, so
And he would have been able
yeah.
to Fireball, Frostbolt, and Ice Block all in one. So just in case something happened, it would have given Gaara more options.
Yep.
So even though Gaara did play this very well, that's one play I think I would have done differently.
Oh wow, he does run Alex Strelda as well. Makes a lot of sense. And here comes the fireball spam. Well played.
This was actually a great game. I never expected Kisstafer to even last that long, but
Yeah, well, he did well, duplicate came up on Sylvanas, which is I think early game that was really a big problem for him because he had to throw
oh,
shade in Miracle Rogue. Is that what
Shade
I'm
of Max Ram
witnessing?
is Miracle Rogue. Huh.
Oh, and so it came to pass that the Shade of Nax saw another deck implemented. That's one of those really cool cards that people have been sprinkling here and there in multiple archetypes and with different varying success, I guess, varying success. I Miracle Rogue is one of my favorite ones. Day one of
Mhm.
Shade of Nax, it wasn't my Miracle. I substituted some specific stuff out of it for Shade. But I'm not sure
No,
how good it is right now in tournaments.
I personally think that cards like Shade of Naxxramas specifically is one that goes well in decks that allows for combos with an extra minion on the field. So I mean, I do like it because you can add it with Cold Blood. You can,
Yeah,
I guess, Cold Blood.
I guess Cold Blood.
But
Oh, he runs Valak Teacher as well.
oh,
Are we not looking at Miracle Rogue then? Well,
this might
I
be
did
one of
see
the.
Prep.
But do we see Shadow Step or Leroy? I know we've seen Force and run a Miracle Rogue without Shadow Steps, without Leroy, without Malagos,
Yeah.
and actually has been going to top 100 Legend with it. So we might see a variant of that from Kisstafer here.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess it becomes more tempo rogue with Gadget and Auctioneer sprinkled in at that point. I don't know if I, but then again, it's the same thing as Freeze Mage, right? Is it still Freeze Mage? If it's not Freeze Mage. But yeah, I do like Violet Teacher in here. That was one of the cards that you could substitute in early Nax to modify the deck post Loatheb to make it that much stronger.
What do you think about Kisstafer's choice to throw out the Blood Mage there versus weaponing up?
When is
As
Blood
easy it
Mage?
is for.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was gonna say, when is Blood Mage going to be really relevant against the board with no minions? Maybe with Eviscerate. But he's got his backstab and his I7. Probably feeling quite comfortable with that.
Do you think cycling that Blood Mage was more important than developing a weapon in that instance?
Well, considering you're not gonna have to be dealing with anything, you don't have a deadly poison, I'd say it's probably worth it.
Hmm.
All right, so Kisstafer now can backstab SI7, attack the Doomsayer if he wants to, but
Does that
that's
leave
quite
him
a huge investment.
susceptible to anything? Obviously, we know
Well,
that Gar has Frostbolt in his hand, which will wipe part of it, but
I mean, Cone of Cold has seen play in decks such as that one. I have seen one instance of Cone of Cold thrown in that new generation Freeze Mage, so to speak, and it has been doing quite well. So I could see Kisstafer being worried about that, but he's not. He realizes,
especially when do you remember the game where Hyped actually used his Cone of Cold on his own minions in order to bring his Ice Block up in order to beat forgetting the name. Was that Nira?
I don't remember the person he was playing against, but that might have been it, where he killed his own minion with Cone of Cold just to trigger a secret like a summon. Was
Mad
that it?
Scientist in order to
Yeah,
get the Ice
exactly.
Block, allowing him to live against Nira against the
Yeah.
Miracle Rogue. An
Yep.
unbelievable end to those games, but
All right. Now one question. The question. Do you play Gadget and Auctioneer, Prep Conceal? Or do you Yep,
I
turns
think
out he
so.
does. Uh two Violet Teachers sitting in hand. Two of them. Wow.
and that cold blood's actually going to be very big to end this game quickly. I think
This is going
Kisfer's
to be
playing this
insane.
perfectly. He understands that the faster he tries to kill Gaara, the more pressure is actually on Gaara to get those ice blocks out.
Yeah. And Gaara does not have Frost Nova with his Doomsayer right now, so I mean, I don't want to say his best line of play here would probably be to play a Sludge Belcher and hope for the best. I don't know. What would you do in his place? Uh, Very
He's
few options right
contemplating
now.
Doomsayer, but that would just be too easy of a kill, I think. I'm sure he's worried about the Doomsayer getting killed this turn even with a Leroy. Would a Leroy Shadow Step end it? It would
Well,
be
does he even need that? How much does he got? Shade will be buffed up to 5, right? So you're sitting right now on a total of 12 damage on
12, so
board.
Leroy Shadow Step would end this game.
Yeah. Wow.
So
That is
I'm
devastating.
sure Gara's actually thinking about that, even though, as we know, Kisstafer may not even be running Leroy.
Yeah. But the Doomsayer, the only good thing, or at least one good thing about the Doomsayer here is that it forces Kisstofer to kill it. Right? If he doesn't have his Leroy, he's forced to spend 7 damage on this, which lets Gaara get a coin Flame Strike next turn, which might actually help him.
Now, here's the
Ooh,
danger of that move. That's an easy sap on that Doomsayer if I've ever seen one.
that's even worse. Loath prevents any board wipe. I'm not. Wow.
Or actually, what do you think? Would you sap the Doomsayer or the Twilight Drake here? Because he's
You can
expecting
kill
the
it.
coin Flame Strike.
You play Loatheb, he can't Flame Strike. Do you still do it? I mean, Sap lets you draw a card off the auctioneer, so that's always a decent option. I wouldn't disregard that. Like, it seems like a pretty solid play. Plus, you also put him on 10 cards, I believe. Am I wrong? Yes, I'm wrong. And he sends back the Drake. Oh,
Cold Blood
this
coming
is
out. He really
dangerous.
should Cold Blood the Shade, and the reasoning behind that is
It
a
lives?
Flame Strike.
Yeah, it lives. Wow, this is unreal.
So this puts Gara in an impossibly difficult situation.
Yeah, he needs Ice Block as soon as possible, just to buy a little bit of time.
Hmm.
Oh, wow. And the Loatheb in hand as well.
And
Oh, the
another prep.
Preparation.
So
Oh,
8 plus
Gaara.
9, 17, 20 gets him down pretty low.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah, I
not
would
sure I
probably
would have
do
prepped
this.
there.
Would you keep that for something else? I mean, this is probably your last turn with the auctioneer.
Now, the reason I would actually not have done that was because he would have gotten Gara low enough to a point that the Shade would have killed him. So Gara either had the choice to get rid of the Shade or the Auctioneer. Most
Yeah, I
likely,
get
I mean,
that.
he would have had to have gotten rid of the Shade, so that Auctioneer almost for sure would have lived. In
Yeah,
which
okay, I
case, I would have
understand.
saved the preparation for a potential another draw that could have made a big difference later.
Yeah. So Gara was forced anyway to deal with this board in another way. Other way he was already losing, and he picked up Bias Block, but I mean that might just be too little, too late, unless he picks up
Hmm.
a Nova soon, which is not impossible. Yeah.
Now, what do you think about the sheep over the Frostbolt?
Yeah, I was contemplating Frostwell, and he just leaves. Yeah, he
And Gara just
realizes
concedes.
there's too little
He
to
knew
do.
exactly what situation he was in there.
Yep, Shade of Naxxramas MVP. Yeah, it's not the first time I see it do that well. It's actually pretty cool. If you consider the fact that the old Frieza Mage was absolutely nightmarish, now this minion heavy.
Just
Oh,
unlimited.
oh, well played. Ooh, two conceals in that Kisstafer deck. Interesting.
I
I like,
really think Kisstafer
yeah.
is not running a Leroy. I'm actually going to take a look at his deck right now. I have to see this.
All right, do that. Just get back to me with the results. I'm really curious now because two conceals. An extra slot that you generally don't see freed up in Miracle Rogue decks.
Wow, I've never seen a deck like this.
Is it just Tempo Rogue? Are we looking at Tempo Rogue, guys? Let it be true.
I couldn't even tell you. So it has two preparations, two cold bloods, two conceals, two saps. It has a big game hunter, two
Okay.
shades,
Yeah. Basic.
Leroy. It does have Leroy, but no shadow steps. Two Violet Teachers, a Lotheb, and a Sprint. So this is
Uh,
kind of a mix between Tempo and Miracle, which
yeah.
I
Which
find
is,
very interesting.
and the cool part is that Miracle is becoming more and more like Tempo these days, right?
Mhm.
And that's kind of interesting to see that Kistafer's taking it even one step further in the Tempo side of things. He daggers up and just passes. Now, Handlock has the Watchers, has the Drake, and wow, even the Taunters at this point. Ooh, picked up a Giants. not all that useful for now. Mountain Giant would have been so much better for him.
Gaara really needs to get a second 4 drop. How I've always seen it is if Handlock does not get a 4 drop, Miracle has advantage.
Yeah,
If they
and
get
it's
one
so
of their 4 drops, 50-50. If they
yeah,
get 2 of their 4 drops, hands down,
yeah,
Handlock beats almost all forms of Rogue.
yeah, because you don't have enough saps or removal to deal with that. Now, the Violet Teacher came on to play. Gara's face under the shades of the glasses probably went, "Wait, what?" And now, and now he's probably considering, well, I guess I put down this 4/9 because it's just that strong. I mean, he can always deny the Violet Teacher very easily. He can always combo with the Mortal Coil. He doesn't have it now, but he very easily could, or just buff it up with Definitive Argus and be done with that thing. Now, I'm curious how Kisstafer approaches the Drake. Does he send it back? I mean, it's not even taunted up. Does appeal to him probably. Um,
Hmm.
it's interesting. It's a really weird spot he's in right now because he can't play a second Violet Teacher and conceal.
I could see him playing the second Violet Teacher though. That might force an early Argus onto that Drake, allowing him to either sap it or kill them both off. I'm trying to see how though, how it could be done. So if he Arguses, a Drake will be at 10 health, attacking in being at 7.
Yeah, if he saps conceals for whatever reason, he could get two 1/1s that are pretty irrelevant at this point.
Hmm.
So it looks like he's actually going to go for the second teacher, try to put some pressure on the Warlock right now to use his removal. Now, Kisstafer knows that Mortal Coil is a possibility, but he's taking the chance. He knows he's going to be losing, or at least likely to be losing, a Valid teacher.
As scary as it must seem to Gaara, I think his best option is to face his Twilight Drake.
Yeah, at this point, makes a lot of sense.
Especially
Hasn't found a second 4 drop.
the main reason for that is because he does have actually 2 Shadow Flames in hand, so he can either combo with Leroy later or he can Shadow Flame one of his own minions, especially the Ancient Watcher the following turn if necessary.
Yeah, like he's not very afraid of much right now because he knows that even the 1/1s get spawned, just Shadow Flame takes care of that. The 4/9 that's there might get sapped though. There's a possibility that Gaara just says, "Nope, you're going back home," and not Gaara, but Kisstafer says that, and looks like he does actually. Wow, is he going
This
to
is going to
use
be a
his
big board.
3/1 with the SI7 agent to kill off the Drake? Killing off that Drake would remove any chance. Well, I mean, Ancient Watcher Shadow Flame is definitely possible, but it doesn't finish off your Valid Teacher. So does he use the SI7 here?
I actually think that would be his best move currently. What are his other options? He could have killed it off with the Violet Teacher, both Violet Teachers, that is, but that would be really susceptible to Hellfire.
Yeah, it's a bit too vulnerable. I mean, you're already vulnerable to Shadow Flame at this point. Well, it's funny how those Valid Teachers are actually being a thorn in Gara's side. He might sacrifice. He might just wipe
But
the entire board at this point.
how
Does he
I see it, if he's
conceal?
scared of Shadow Flame, why would he not kill that Drake? Because all will need the Drake run into the Violet Teacher and then a 4 mana Shadow Flame, and it's
Because
over.
if he kills the Drake with the SI7, what happens is he doesn't have a stealthed board. Whereas now he does, and if no Shadow Flame is used, then that's a huge amount of damage coming in. Yep, and that's exactly what he does. Stealth everything up. Now, if Shadow Flame is used, at least he cycles off Blood Mage, I guess.
Exactly. This is an unquestionable Shadow Flame. The only question that does remain is what does he Shadow Flame?
Watcher or
Sure, his own Drake.
huh? Interesting. Well, he pulled off a Mountain Giant, so
I would
there's an
expect him to actually Shadow Flame his Watcher at in this instance.
yeah. There's really nothing else you're gonna do anyway this turn. I mean, I guess you could life tap it out, but with that would put you on 10.
But once again, I'm sure he's scared of some Leroy Shadow Step prep eviscerate, and it's
Yeah.
over.
That's true because we have to look at this from Gar's perspective at this point. He knows that his opponent has been very aggressive, and he hasn't been able to
Ooh.
capitalize on the handlock power of taunting up all the time.
I actually take back the move I just said.
Go
I think
ahead
what he should do is play Sun Fury Protector,
and
taunting
shadow
up
flame it.
his own minion, and then Shadow Flame it.
Yeah, because it
Because
kills
Shadow
the
Flame
the
will,
same amount of stuff, right?
exactly, and it keeps him
Oh,
at 3 health, which is no problem when he has a Soulfire in hand. But at the
oh,
same
that
time, protects him from that possible combo.
that's evil. That's evil, but it works, and I like it. It's really effective. But he does go for the Watcher after all, wants to damage the Vile Teacher down to 1 health, or doesn't see necessarily the Sun Fury value there. That would have been an incredible Sun Fury Protector value.
That actually took me quite a while to see.
Yep.
But
Wow.
I guess he does value the Sun Fury Protector over the Argus just based on its mana cost.
Yeah. I like Kisstafer's deck because he runs BGH, which so he knows, well, I mean, he obviously knows that Handlock is a bad matchup. That's
Hmm.
pretty obvious to him. Ragnaros is getting run all over the place. So he runs two saps and one BGH, which makes his Handlock matchup actually bearable, uh, as opposed to completely atrocious. Like a lot of people who make rogue decks, or at least attempts or similar decks to Miracle Rogue, say, I forsake the handlock deck. I don't try to play around it because I know that it's a bad matchup inherently. I'll focus on all the other ones. But Kisstafer has a deck here which seems to counter handlock quite effectively, in some way at least.
Now, can you see Christopher running his Violet Teacher in order to wipe out this Drake? Or does he realize that he doesn't have many options at this point and just goes face, hoping to get a free BGH off next turn?
Oh, Gaara has too many cards in hand for him to sacrifice the Vile Teacher at this point. I think you have to. Well, then again, you're afraid of Molten Giant falling down, especially if you hit him down to. You bring him in the
But
possibility of taunting up. There's a possibility to follow up giants beyond the one Molten.
but here's what I was thinking. Instead of dropping him down to 13, you drop him down to 14 with just the Violet Teacher. That way, at max, only one Molten Giant could come down. So it would actually, I'm sorry, excuse me, it would actually be max one giant this turn.
Yeah,
Um, that way, it would actually eliminate the possibility of him playing both a Mountain Giant and a
and a
Molten,
Molten
or two
Giant. Yeah,
Moltens. Yep.
yeah, I can totally see that. It makes a lot of sense. Now, does he BGH or does he want to Gadget Sand and Sap? That's really like interesting to me.
I
Because
really
BGH does remove
think
it outright.
because that Soulfire just came down, I really
Yeah,
think the sap at this point has more efficacy. The
'cause-
reasoning is because that big game hunter will get value on a taunted 8/8, and then he only has to deal with one later.
yeah, and there's
Meanwhile,
also. Go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No, nothing interesting. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say if he does decide to big game hunter this, he has to worry about a possible double molten giant later in the game, both being taunted up. But if he does it now, he's not gonna really have to worry about that mountain giant again. It's more
Yeah.
likely that Gaara is gonna be forced into playing molten. So really, by sapping this, it practically kills that one giant off.
Yeah, that's true. Because it can't really be replayed as long as you have too few cards in hand. It costs you so much mana. There's like a huge tempo loss just replaying that thing. So yeah, Sap in this case is essentially a BGH that draws you a card.
Oh, and a quick mention: everyone should tweet at HearthStats if they would like any of their tweets featured on stream. Any constructive criticism on minor noxiouses, any recommendations, how to make the stream better, anything you want to say about the players, feel free to tweet at HearthStats on Twitter.
Yeah, they will be hand selected, and if we from our thrones judge them worthy of reading, we will read them.
Yeah, be
So.
nice.
Uh, All right, so wow, Big Game Hunter and Shade of Naxxramas on this board, and the Shadow Flame was discarded through the Soulfire last time from Gaara, so that's a bit unfortunate for him because he probably would love to use them right now, but he's going to be forced to Twilight Drake and Earthling Farseer to counter, and he's still afraid of the double Leroy, isn't he? Yeah, all day, every day. By the way, he did BGH instead of Sap. By the way, hadn't mentioned it, but he did go for that play instead.
So, what do you think about his decision to use BGH over SAP? Would you prefer Kissafer's route, or would you prefer to have sapped and kind of taken a little bit slower?
I might have, oh, but maybe because of the cold blood, he wasn't. Well, he didn't have cold blood at that point. I mean, I'm really surprised he went for the BGH because he
Oh,
could have
he's
put down a
using his
4/4
sap
anyway.
right now.
Ooh,
No, no, no.
that is
I
no, no.
really dislike.
But he's got two eviscerates left. Am I right? Am I wrong? Because he could sprint into them very easily.
Yeah.
So, because he's got no more health back. So Gaara, unless he runs Jiraxis, Alex Straza, or gets a Siphon Soul off the top,
Mhm.
it's going to be a bit troublesome. But he looks. Gaara only drew 13 cards, so the odds of him having giants again, They're a bit slim, but he's been holding on
Exactly.
to a lot of cards so far, so he could assume that those are giants. It
I
would
think
could make
Kisstafer's
sense.
forced just to go all out at this point.
Welcome to
I don't
Rogue
know.
against Handlock. Oh
See,
Lord.
I still dislike his combo of plays, but it may very well pay off. Just the fact that he used Sap, he had the opportunity to practically use Sap as a kill on that Mountain Giant, but instead he used it on the Drake later.
Yeah,
He's
prevents
going to
him
be
from
facing
actually
down two
regaining
more.
board.
So now here's an interesting question. Whoa, 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 Drake.
Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter because he's going double Molten into Defender into Soulfire on the Gadge. I'd assume,
Gaara,
at
I
least,
think Gaara had one possible play there, and
which was.
he should have, instead of using Drake there, I think he should have double gianted Argist and then actually used a Leroy to kill off that last 4-2, giving Gaara two taunted up things when Kisstafer had no board. So instead of wiping the board, he, I guess, decided
Just,
to.
yeah, I get it. Yeah, keeping the okay, so losing the Drake to just use the Soulfire instead and wipe
Mhm.
the board completely. But now Gaara is probably very afraid at least of direct damage, knowing that two of his raids have not been played yet. He doesn't know a thing about the fact that, Kisstafer has none of those.
So I like
That,
this Leroy play to wipe the field, or at least wipe a decent portion of the field.
hmm Yeah, it's gonna work. One giant will stay alive though, as far as I know.
Let's see. Yeah, he will not actually have enough mana to throw down that SI, so one giant will stay alive.
Yeah, but he can sprint SI7 agent next turn to actually
Exactly.
finish off the job. But now Gara's probably breathing a little. Well, I don't know if I'd be breathing a little better at night right now, considering the fact that I am on 5 health and no Eviscerates have been played. And if I draw Siphon Soul, I have to Siphon Soul my defender.
Hmm.
Wonder what he picks up here.
Is there any card that Kisstafer could draw to finish off this game?
Um, to finish off the game immediately, he can deal two through the SI7. So
I actually think Prep would do it because he
yeah,
would prep into Sprint, giving him 3 mana left, SI to do it, and then an Eviscerate would end it.
yeah, but he's one turn away from death. Actually, Prep is probably uh, that's not gonna
That
do it.
is not
Or does he?
enough.
Yeah, it's wait.
That power overwhelming is going to kill him.
Oh. Oh, that was a really close call.
What a game.
Gara. Oh.
Gaara with the absolute biggest top deck, and he has no idea how big that card was to finish off this game. I'm sure he was hoping for Siphon Soul, but it
Yeah.
turns out that power overwhelming will end it.
Yeah, because he could not life tap, right? Like there was no way for him to ever get another card after this, and this will be the game. Gara taking it up against Kisstafer. It's very like how do we call this deck?
I don't even know, but in the words of Admirable, that was a huge draw.
Yeah, I'm just satisfied. I can't. Yeah, looks like it. Oh Lord.
That's that's a little questionable in my opinion. Obviously, Big Game Hunter is big. Twilight Drake you want to keep. The Owl goes good to silence a Twilight Drake, but then I can see keeping the Farseer to have a turn 3 play, but I still don't see that as being enough when this matchup really comes down
Uh,
to
we're not looking
getting
at the
out those
games right
early
now.
giants.
I'm still looking at the hands. I don't know if your display is the same as mine. We're not on the ballot screens yet. And there we are. All right,
There
little
we are.
technical delay there. All right, so basically, I think the reason he actually kept the hand was because anyway, you're going to be two
Two
BGHs.
Big Game Hunters. Wow.
Good game, ladies and gentlemen. This is this is over.
It's sad, but
Wow.
yeah.
This is a massive decision. I've seen Firebat play a Druid deck, and the name I believe was called Harvest Golem Doesn't Win
Doesn't win
Games.
games. Yeah.
Yeah, and the same idea was used as, oh, if I'm gonna make a 3 drop in my deck, it's gonna have to be something that impacts the board. And with Handlock being as popular as it is right now in tournaments, yeah, BGH everywhere now, I guess. Wow, this is huge.
So also, what do you think
Oh,
about Gar deciding to coin out
oh,
the
I
Drake?
like it. Just oh, this is so devastating.
Oh, this is mean. This is really just mean what he's doing with his hand.
I can't even. And now Kissterfer's probably like, oh, okay, so he has one BGH.
He's
Uh,
already shaking his head after seeing that. But
Yeah, no,
little
he's
does he
gonna.
know that Gar has a second big game hunter
All
just
right.
waiting.
All right, so we have to have the Burp Man on the board right now. Sludge Belcher might come out to at least stop the potential. Because the way that works is that if you play Sludge Belcher and they both, the Twilight Drake attacks into it, and then it gets coil and the 4-2 finishes off the 4-1, then you can always coil the remaining 1 health on the Big Game Hunter. So it's probably what he's going to end up doing, I believe.
So you
Yep.
look at Sludge Belcher. I was actually taking a look at the Ancient Watcher taunting it up because it's just a little bit more awkward in my opinion. Well, no, I think Belcher was actually the more correct play in that situation in terms of just awkwardness for Gar to deal with.
Yeah, it kind of is. But at the same time, I guess you could make an argument. Wow, the does he use Iron Beak Owl ever here? Do you ever just go through,
No, I don't think you can on a Belcher
even
like
with a
this.
BGH and a Molten Giant?
This is why Belcher has
Uh,
become one of the not only one of the best cards, but just the most fun.
uh,
I've always said if like for newer players, it's better. It's wait, what's the word I'm saying? If you have the choice between putting yourself in a good position and putting your opponent in an awkward position, it's always better to put your opponent in the awkward.
yeah,
And that's what
obviously.
Belcher does every single time it comes into play. It's
Yeah,
so just weird to deal with.
and it's funny how it's not overpowered either. Like I don't feel like it breaks anything. Oh, we're looking at a pretty bursty hand here. Double Soulfire Leroy. We need a little bit more here from Kisstafer to be able to pack a punch. Although, how much punch exactly? Wow.
So I think he's forced to tap in this instance.
Yeah, he might have to just taunt up the Ancient Watcher to stop the aggression a bit. Although he might, no, he probably doesn't want to keep it for the Moltens. He can get Definitive Argus a little later for that. It is not necessary.
Do you think would you Soulfire the 3/3?
I'd think about it, at least for a little moment. Now, I don't know if I'd do it because it's probably not the best use of them. Considering the amount of bigger minions, like Double Soulfire kills a giant essentially. He's got the Siphon Soul. He can
Mm-hmm.
deal with quite a huge amount of threats right now. Wow.
I think
Okay.
Kisstafer might realize, based on just his current position, that it's going to come down to a Leroy power overwhelming
Yep.
kill.
I mean, a good Shadow
It's,
Flame here off the Watcher is not terrible, right? Although he probably wants to keep that for a giant removal. He
mhm.
could probably justify Shadow Flaming the Watcher, then Soul Firing the final
I
Twilight
think
Drake.
a power overwhelming draw would have made it, I think, worthwhile. But in this instance, I don't
Yeah.
know. He's such in a weird position. That's why I love the handlock versus handlock matchups. There's never a 100, or most of the time, there's just not a 100% correct play.
Well, I
They're
believe there
just,
is. It's just really awkward because you never quite know what the opponents have in hand.
mhm.
It's really weird in that way. Like, do you play the giant? I mean, you have to play the mountain here, but at
It's just,
least he'll have Moltens for
with so
later.
many cards in hand, not only for yourself, but your opponent, there's just so many things that could possibly happen. That is just always hard to determine exactly what's the best course of
Yeah.
action. You have to worry about board clears through Shadow Flame. You have to worry about the Leroy combo. You have to worry about some power overwhelming on a Sylvanas to take your own guy.
Like, you have to worry. Oh, he's playing around Is he thinking about maybe not taunting up both of those guys later? Nope, never mind. Yeah, all right. So at least the Watcher will be watching as the two Drakes slam into it, assuming no removal is used on it. Wait. If he plays a Mountain Giant here and oh,
Mountain Giant Shadow Flame and just wipe the
yeah,
entire board.
BGH. Who needs that? Whoever spoke of BGH, heathens, and
So,
Defensive Argus is not here.
do you think Gaara should opt to run into face here, forcing out the double Molten Giant?
I believe it makes a lot of sense considering he's got the BGH, but he might be setting up for a one-turn lethal, as opposed to letting it draw out for a few turns.
Now that's interesting because he does have a Shadow Flame in hand. I think it might have been a better play to
Just
force
go
out those double
face.
Moltens and just because once the double Moltens come out with but at the same time he might not want to run into his own or run into a possible Shadow Flame.
Yeah, that could be problematic if a Shadow Flame comes out and then he loses one Drake and the other one is very low on health. Could get Iron Beak Eld even. So, well, there is definitely a Shadow Flame after Leroy consideration here. He could go Leroy if he wants to wipe the board, Shadow Flame, then Soulfire the second Drake, or Siphon Soul.
Siphon Soul.
And so he does, and uses the coil to finish off the second one. That's gonna be tricky though. Oh, he Soulfires the one health minion.
And
I
he
thought he
loses
would
the
leave it
Molten
up.
Giant. That's
Devastating.
not at all what he wanted to see go. He really wanted the Mortal Coil or even the Shadow Flame to disappear there.
Wow. I'm actually surprised that he used the Soulfire here. I would have just left the Owl there for a turn
Lotheb
and
comes
maybe get a
out here.
coil.
I think that's a pretty intelligent play.
Yep. Yeah, that's very good. It's setting up 5 extra damage for next turn. He hasn't found Leroy yet, so he's only sitting on Power Overwhelming, but he can definitely get it out unless Soulfire is paid for in blood at this point. Leroy Jenkins could be used, I guess, to wipe Lotheb, although that feels absolutely awful.
Yeah, that just doesn't seem right.
What seems right here, though?
I hate to say it,
Everything.
but I think he has to tap for something. Tap for a Sun Fury.
And then Soulfire Lotheb with for 5? Like, that, ugh. I mean, you play it, but yeah, I mean, Twilight Drake or Giant at this point. Or he has to sacrifice Leroy into that Lotheb, which is disgusting.
Yeah,
Um,
see, the issue with tapping right there is now all Gaara needs is Leroy.
Leroy PO.
Yeah, Leroy Power Overwhelming, Leroy Soulfire. So
And
by tapping it, absolutely forces him to use the Leroy in order to wipe that Lotheb off.
and yeah, that is not funny. Now we have a power overwhelming body on the board. So the PO could be used for whatever reason. He can at least coil it on the following turn. So that's at
Hmm.
least decent. Ooh, the other mountain. Oh. I almost want Kisstafer not to play his Molten Giant. I don't want to see the look on his face when it gets BGH'd. I just don't want to be there when that
Oh,
happens.
Gaara's a genius.
Oh,
Not
this is
taunting up that
evil.
Mountain Giant for the Black Knight gets no value.
And yeah, and Christopher realizes it and he's like, ah, frustrating.
It's one option. Ooh, the Jiraxis could make a difference.
Really?
Yeah. So here's what I'm seeing right now. Is there any
Yeah.
reason not to tap? 14 health loses to Leroy, Power Overwhelming, Soulfire.
But how do
But
you
I get
taunt up?
versus 12.
How do you live?
I think a tap is worth it unless he's scared of the Leroy.
Oh,
Leroy. Oh,
nice pickup, sir. I would like to congratulate you on your top deck. This is amazing. Well, that changes everything, I believe. Yeah, I
does
believe
it?
it just might. Well, it
I
changes at
think.
least a little bit.
I think. I hate to say it, but big game Black Knight, Soulfire.
Yeah, that is absolutely disgusting. Oh, wow. Will he do it though?
I
It
think
makes
he's
too
taking
much
the
sense not to
risk.
do.
But at the same time, Kisstafer is in a kind of a slower position, which he does need to take risks in terms of getting stuff on the board to
Yeah,
possibly
he is
kill him.
not playing the beatdown, and he loses Jaraxxus. He would have rather. Oh
Yeah,
no.
Jiraxis was the card that could have saved him, I think,
Oh,
taking it into
this.
a slower ended game.
But he is afraid of Leroy, which hasn't been seen yet. But Ragnaros gets found. Wow. So wait, if he silences the Watcher and Power Overwhelming it, how much damage are we looking at right now? We're looking at 8 from just that. So Defensive Argus would make it 9. Maybe a little too risky.
Yeah. Um,
Do you ever PO Shadow Flame here?
let's
I mean,
see.
you could even
Is there
like.
any good Ragnaros play that he could do at the moment?
I don't like it very much. I probably would just silence off. I mean, he could BGH the Molten Giant easily. There are multiple ways for Gaara to approach this. Really, BGH is one of them. Silence off the Watcher, Power Overwhelming, attack face, then Shadow Flame also wipes the board. Uh,
I
so
actually
there's
like
yeah.
tapping here and then BGH. See if he can get something to follow up that BGH afterwards. Unless he's actually considering just silence his own Watcher, hit it, and then taunt both his Owl and his Watcher back up.
Christopher's soul is about to be crushed if that BGH comes out. Your soul shall suffer indeed.
Just watch his face as this comes
Oh, oh
out.
no, no, no. Yes, yes, yes. Go. Five, four. Oh. Ah!
That
That was priceless. I could read his
was
lips,
just
and now
like,
he's.
what?
Oh, this is good.
Wow.
Oh, I am so. Oh, I wouldn't like to be in Kisstafer's position right now. This is absolutely atrocious.
He's heartbroken with that move.
I would be. I would be more than heartbroken. I think I just. I don't know what I'd do.
Now, do
I
you
think
think
his
Gar's
face
choice
summed it
to
up.
use Siphon Soul versus silencing his own watcher trading was better, or
Silence goes through taunts, right? So you could always use that as a proxy, go through the face, assuming you need the Leroy to go through for whatever reason.
that's actually a good point.
But now this should be over with Ragnaros plus Silence the Watcher.
Ragnaros silence, that's game over. So it
Yep.
looks like Gar will take the series 3-1.
Yep, Gaara winning the first of the best of fives that we're going to be seeing today in the round of eight. So, grats to Gaara and the Ragnaros finish. Warlock bits over the place. Well, those were really nice games. Now, it's interesting to see that both Warlocks were running BGH as a preparation for other